Cutback for Vasilev, and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club. Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and what a start to the 2026 Philadelphia Union season with a 5-0 win over Defense Force in the first leg of the Concacaf Champions Cup. And yeah, I was not expecting that. I'll say that right off grip. Was not expecting the Union to come out here and blow away Defense Force by that big of a scoreline. I thought we'd see 2 goals by the Union in that game. And I was in a group chat with a bunch of friends, and I had jokingly texted them and said, I think Milan Iloski is going to score. That was a given, just seeing how well he played in the preseason. And then I said, Sal Olivas is going to score a goal coming off the bench. Obviously, Sal Olivas did not even come off the bench for the Union last night. But the Union, they get the goal from Milan Iloski off of a free kick. Great free kick goal by Milan Iloski, which we'll talk about Iloski, I think, here in a bit. And we'll talk about, obviously, the other goal scorers, too, and a little bit distracted on here because, just looking at Twitter, still giving issues. And so we are live on Facebook. We haven't been live on Facebook in quite some time. And that's because Jose Nunez is not here with us tonight. So I'm going to need your guys' help in the comment section. Go ahead and share this, like it. I have no clue what gets people's attention on YouTube. So it does seem like YouTube's probably going to be our best bet tonight. I don't know if liking the stream, sharing the stream on Facebook does anything. But yeah, if you guys can do all that, because I'm going to need you guys to help me carry the show tonight. But yeah, super excited to finally have a competitive Philadelphia Union game to talk about. And really just, I hope this is good things to come for the Philadelphia Union. Lots of goals. We know how good this team is defensively. We saw it last year with the Union. And again, we all know the changes. Jose and I have talked about the changes of Jacob Glesnes no longer at the club, Kai Wagner no longer at the club. And so you don't really know what to expect. Losing key guys like Jacob and like Kai Wagner, 2 players that have been finalists for 2 years for Defender of the Year, with Jacob Glesnes winning that award once. It is kind of a shame that during Kai's tenure here in Philadelphia, he never won Defender of the Year once. Maybe it should have been last year. Definitely shouldn't have been Tristan Blackman, but I guess that's neither here or there. But yeah, I guess, I mean, we can go ahead and start talking about the goals, and we can talk about Milan a little bit later because I don't know if you guys saw this, but Concacaf after the game announced that Iloski was the superior player of the match, not man of the match, not player of the match day. He was the superior player of the match, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if that's been an award for quite some time with Concacaf, since obviously the Union weren't in the competition last year. But yeah, I thought it was interesting calling it superior. There's so many award names that we have to get properly. But I think at the end of the day, we all know what we're talking about when we say player of the match day. Like let's all just get on one page. It's not have multiple different names for these awards. But regardless, Ezekiel Alladoh scores for the Union last night. You get a goal from Makhanya off of a header. Damiani comes off the bench and scores a brace. But we saw the lineup, and I guess we can go ahead and start there. Let's hope this doesn't mess up the stream. But yeah, last night's lineup for the Union saw Andrew Rick in goal, Jesus Bueno, Iloski, Alejandro Bedoya, Jeremy Raffanello at right back, which, by the way, I want to get your guys' thoughts in the comments on how you think Jeremy Raffanello played at right back. Denley John Jock, Ezekiel Alladoh, Nathan Harriel, and Makhanya as your two center backs. Stas Kwasnowski with the start up top with Alladoh, and then Frankie Westfield played at left back. And so this was an interesting lineup for the Philadelphia Union, to say the least. And wasn't sure, honestly, how it was going to go. I said it a little bit earlier for people that are just joining now, as I try to get the stream tweeted out on Twitter. But I had said I thought the Union were going to go ahead and maybe win this game by 2 goals. And obviously they explode for a lot more goals on the evening. But when you look at this, I mean, Stas Kwasnowski making his debut for the Philadelphia Union. I know last year, an emergency call up, he was on the bench, never played. I believe that game was against St. Louis City. And then Ezekiel Alladoh makes his debut. And yeah, I know Alladoh coming into the game didn't score a goal in preseason, unlike some of his other teammates, like a Milan Iloski, like Olwethu, Makhanya, like an Alejandro Bedoya. And so, yeah, was that going to be a concern? I don't know. We weren't really sure how Stas and Ezekiel were going to pair in this game, because Bradley Cornell throughout preseason tried a whole bunch of different partnerships, a whole bunch of different lineups, and we got to see these two start. And Damiani, we knew probably wasn't going to start this game just because he was away from the team for the last 2 weeks dealing with getting his green card. So he was away in Uruguay, and so you knew he probably wasn't at the match fitness levels compared to the rest of his teammates. But regardless, comes off the bench and scores that brace, and we can talk about that here in a little bit. But I had asked you guys in comments, and I'll go ahead and pull them up here in a bit to see if you guys maybe have given your thoughts yet on Jeremy Raffanello. And I know there's some of you guys that listen to the podcast that just listen to the RSS feed, don't listen to the podcast live. Jose and I tell you every episode, listen to the podcast live, watch the video live, because we interact, we pull your comments up, we show videos, we show pictures. And so it's always best interacting with you guys when we are live. Every single podcast, say it all the time at the end. But Jeremy Raffanello, I think, had a terrific game at right back. Maybe we would have thought that it would have been Alejandro Bedoya at right back, because he played it last year against Chicago Fire, played it against Vancouver Whitecaps. Obviously, it doesn't go that well against Vancouver last year. But I don't know. I had a sneaking good suspicion that it was going to be Raffanello at right back, and I thought he held his own. And I'm sure people in the comments and you guys listening back on the RSS feed, heard the commentators say, that Jeremy Raffanello has been a staple for a long time at the right back spot for the Union. And yeah, I think we all have different thoughts on the commentary last night. A lot of fake news spread. I swear I heard at one time that he said Alejandro Bedoya was in his 50s, called Kevin Sullivan 50 million names, called Bradley Cornell Brian at one point, and it was laughable, and maybe not as good as George Metellus, who called the game a few years ago for the Union in the Champions Cup. But regardless, I think when the Union are free scoring as much as they do, fans, all they can do is laugh at the blunders of the names. But yeah, Raffanello, I think maybe wasn't involved as much as you would have hoped on the right side of the field. Only had 45 touches compared to Frankie Westfield. And Bradley Cornell had told us today in his press conference, that was their plan, to go down the left side of the field with Frankie Westfield, who we saw pick up that assist for Alladoh's goal. But yeah, defensively, I thought Jeremy was sound, made the runs that he was supposed to, created space for them out wide when they needed that type of runs. But yeah, primarily the Union stayed on the left. I don't think Jeremy was really tested that much, and that's what you want. You want a solid game for a player that's playing out of position. And That's exactly what you got from Jeremy Raffanello on the night. Again, I see comments earlier in the share. We'll pull them up as we go on, but searching for the comments, what you guys think of Raffanello. John says, Cornell seemed like he was having to tell Raffanello where to stand in the beginning. And that's very possible. And yeah, I mean, you throw a player in there that's not a natural right back. Yeah, you expect there to be some coaching going on the sideline. Sexy Hoagie chimes in and says the first 20 minutes were so nervousing. And yeah, I think that's probably an accurate statement. But don't forget, we also had the attempted bicycle kick for Ezekiel Alladoh earlier on in this game. And imagine if he would have scored that first touch, bicycle kick goal. Philadelphia Union fans probably would have been building the statue throughout the night and making sure he sees that statue when he lands in Philadelphia the next day. But regardless, you see the Union just come out with this crazy formation. And I don't think it's any surprise to see Frankie Westfield on the left. We saw him plenty of times there on the left with Union too, and he really held his own defensively and offensively. And yeah, I saw some comments from people saying, well, do we need a left back when you had Frankie Westfield play as well as he did? And yeah, I would argue that you still need a left back, but it is good to know that Frankie can do the job on the left. It is good to know that Nathan Harriel can do the job on the left. And how many times have we talked about the versatility of this team throughout the offseason, Jose and I? And yeah, that's going to be an added plus for Bradley Cornell and this coaching staff to have choices, to know that you don't have to have um, a set lineup, that you don't need to have the same lineup every single game. And I know we saw that a lot last year, that the Union didn't always have the consistent lineup that maybe they used to have under Jim Curtin, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, you want these guys to build chemistry, but at the end of the day, when you can go ahead and surprise the opposition, I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, I'll go ahead and look in the comments, see what you guys think of Jeremy Raffanello. Yeah, Pat said Boudoir was 59. Yeah, I thought so. I swear that he said that Boudoir was in his 50s. I cannot believe it. And didn't you guys notice too that the commentator was like aging up every single player, it seemed, by one? And that's exactly what we got throughout the rest of the game. But I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on Frankie Westfield, and maybe it was to be expected because, as I said, Frankie Westfield played a lot of left back with Union too. We know he's a natural right-footed player, but did a job. And what a beautiful cross too by Frankie with his left foot, I believe it was, for Alladoh. And I saw on Instagram, Alladoh said that Westfield owes him a lot more of those. But yeah, I mean, that's a typical Frankie Westfield performance. Are you guys surprised that Andrew Rick got the start in goal last night over Andre Blake? Me personally, I'm not too surprised by that, just because let's face it, right? These Concacaf games, especially teams that aren't Mexican or MLS teams, they tend not to have the greatest of stadiums. And so is it worth potentially risking an injury to Andre Blake early in the game, early in the season? Probably not. I would fully expect Andre Blake to go out and start against DC United this weekend, and we'll talk about DC later on the show. But yeah, Andrew Rick really wasn't tested all that much last night. Made maybe one save. I know he had a save that was eventually called off sides, and he was heated. It was a good left-footed save by Andrew Rick. Wouldn't have counted anyway, but still, you want to see the goalkeeper play to the final whistle, and that's exactly what Andrew Rick did in that moment. But yeah, I thought it was a solid performance from those guys, and we can go ahead and talk a little bit individually. But I do want to get to the goal scorers. Alladoh with a beautiful header. I think you saw exactly what kind of player he is. He's a strong player, a strong physical player that's going to be good in the hold-up play, just like Bruno Damiani is as well. And so the thing that you get with Alladoh that maybe you don't so much get with Damiani is the speed. and we didn't need to see that too much for the Union last night, because the game, I think, was just dominated for the most part in the midfield. We saw Korzeniowski at times. I don't know, Jose said this on Twitter. He said it, I believe, last night on AAT Sports Across the Pitch, saying that he thought Korzeniowski, there I go, repeating what the commentator was saying. Korzeniowski was dropping too deep. That's what Jose was saying. And yeah, I can see that. And again, I mean, it was his first professional start with the first team in a huge competition. And yeah, granted, it might not have been against the strongest of oppositions, but still, I'm sure you're a little bit nervous, playing away in a stadium that had 200 people at best. But it's a big moment, it's a big game, and you're expected to come in and win this game. You're definitely not the underdogs, and so I'm sure maybe there was a little bit pressure for Korzeniowski on the night, and just trying to figure out exactly how Alladoh wants to play next to him. But yeah, I thought he had a solid game overall. He worked hard to win back balls, to head away chances on corner kicks from defense force. But yeah, I mean, it was solid overall performance. Bruno Damiani comes off the bench, scores a brace. And how about Kevin Sullivan, which I can go ahead and pull up comments now because I saw some of you guys have already commented this. Jazz said earlier in the show, best outing I've seen from Cavan. Didn't he call Cavan Connor at one point? I don't know. I mean, so many different names for Cavan. Cav was definitely a problem for defense force. He definitely was, and eventually one led to a penalty kick that Damiani converted for the brace, and then two eventually got Jones, I believe the player was, sent off because Cavan was in. It's a direct ball played up top for Cavan, 1v1. He's zooming past the defender, and then he gets brought down. Clear red card. Even if Jones wasn't on that yellow card, it's a clear red card, tackle from behind. Cavan was definitely going to be in with a chance. I don't know how you guys feel, but I kind of feel like Cavan should have taken that penalty, earned the penalty kick. And yes, I know last year Bradley Cornell said when Damiani's on the field, he is the designated penalty kick taker. And I do wonder, right? Maybe if there's stronger goalkeeping on the field, does Damiani's penalty get saved? Does Alladoh's header get saved? Does Milan Iloski's free kick goal get saved? Potentially. I didn't think it was the greatest goalkeeping performance from a goalkeeper, but regardless, I mean, Damiani's not going to care about how these goals are scored. Alladoh's not going to care that the goalie got a hand to his header. It's going to do wonders for your confidence. And Bradley Cornell talked about that a little bit today at his press conference, and we'll play a clip about that here in a bit. But Makhanya gets a goal too on a header. And the thing I worry about with Makhanya, I think he's going to have a terrific season. He was excellent last year, and I think a lot of people probably would have said he had the better season than Jacob Glesnes. Should have been up for young player of the year. I think you could have made an argument that he should have been up for the defender of the year. Who knew what to expect from Makhanya after not playing the last 2 seasons or season and a half under Jim Curtin? And yes, injuries happen, and he has a good preseason last year, and I'm sure it doesn't hurt that it's a fellow countryman now leading the Union, but he gets given his opportunity, and it looked like he belonged. I mean, he didn't look like the player that got sent off in the final in the MLS Next Pro final against North Texas the previous season. Yeah, sure, he had maybe a little bit nervous moments here and there, but for the most part, I thought Makhanya was very sound last year. And again, we saw him scoring goals throughout preseason with the Union, strong defensively, and I think he's only going to get better. And so my concern is with Makhanya, he does have a team option for the 2027 season, but Makhanya should be with South Africa at the World Cup. We know that Hugo Bruce does not rate MLS. We've talked about that plenty of times on this podcast, and I think that's maybe lazy scouting overall from the South African Federation to not pay attention to MLS, because if you paid attention, Makhanya would have been on the roster at one point or another last year with South Africa. And maybe Makazi, I believe is the defender's name that Chicago Fire signed. And that's what started the whole thing with the national team. Hugo Bruce just complaining about, it's a horrible move for him to go to Chicago Fire. He doesn't rate MLS, and saying that he's going to the second team. And we don't need to go ahead and rehash all that. We did earlier in the podcast, a month or so ago. But regardless, I think Makhanya, whether or not he goes to the World Cup with South Africa, if he continues to play as well as he played last year and the start of this season, now I know it's one game in, I have a hard time believing that Makhanya will be here throughout the whole season. And that's why MLS needs to change the schedule. And I know there's people for it and there's people not for it. And a big reason why people aren't for it is because of the weather and whatnot. And I totally get that. But you guys have heard me say so many times that there's nothing wrong with MLS being a selling league, and they need to get their transfer windows on par with the rest of the world. And so it puts the union and other teams in MLS at such a disadvantage when they're having to sell players in the summertime because the offers are just too good to turn down. And now you're having to quickly scramble and replace that player. I do think the union have that replacement player in Guillermo Martinez, who, by the way, was not on the match day squad last night, was not even in Trinidad and Tobago. Bradley Cornell had told us today at the press conference that the reason for that is visa issues. Yes, he has his P1 visa to play in the United States, but it would become very difficult if Martinez leaves the United States and tries to re-enter back in. And so it was a team decision to leave him in America. So they don't have to worry about going through the government and trying to get him back into the United States. And it is a shame that that's where things are in the world, where somebody's literally trying to do their job and they get paid to play soccer. And there's questions that, they may not be able to come back into America if they leave. And so it's really disappointing to hear, which is part of the reason why it took so long to get Martinez here in the beginning. But I do think if you sell Makhanya, I think Martinez is that ideal replacement. Hopefully the union don't sell Makhanya. Hopefully he can see out the whole season. But again, that option, only one option for 2027. We don't know what the schedule is going to look like next season. And that's something that the MLSPA and MLS is going to have to figure out. Is that option for 2027 just for the shortened season? Is that going to go through the 2027, 2028 season? Who knows? And that's something I'm sure that's going to be tackled at some point this season. Hopefully we get an answer from MLS, from MLS teams, how all that is going to work. But again, I would much rather the union sell Makhanya during this season as opposed to losing him or free or for a minimum amount. But I think Makhanya is in for a really, really good season. Let me go ahead and see these comments before we go ahead and play the first clip. Jazz says, no need to brag, Jose. I didn't even see Jose was in the comments, so that's so funny. Jose Nunez, sorry to miss the show. Had to take the day off after 2 days of absolute fornication. What a crazy comment last night from the commentator. Wolfie says, agree, Stas is way more competent than Donovan. I do agree with that. Says, same as last year, every time Kevin and Bruno are on the field together, good things seem to happen. Jazz says, I think Makhanya will go next summer, not this. Yeah, that's possible. Again, I would love to know exactly how the options are going to work for that shortened season compared to the new schedule for 2027, 2028. But yeah, how do you evaluate a lopsided game like that? We know last year the Union got the snot beat out of them by Vancouver 7-0. And Bradley Cornell had said after that game that it's an anomaly, that him, his staff, the players, they're just going to go ahead and move on from that game, turn the page quickly, and just erase it from their memories. And so I had asked Bradley Cornell today, knowing that was your staff, and the team's approach last year to the game against Vancouver. Is that sort of the same mindset with a game this lopsided? But it was the opposite this season. You guys put up the 5 goals, and you guys weren't on the losing end of things. And this is what Bradley Cornell had to say about it being a mindset, winning the game 5-0 and turning the page.
Yeah, very professional mindset. That's what's required. We know we've had a really, grueling preseason with a bunch of games and a bunch of travel and everything like that. And knowing that we're gonna have this schedule congestion over the next 14 days. And that's what it's about. You move on to the next game. I think one of the journalists last night was asking about Club America, and I was like, man, we're not even there yet, and there's still a game on next week, Thursday. And we got a game now on Saturday. So, that's the primary focus for our group. This morning, the boys put a massive effort into their regeneration, upon arrival, like at 5 a.m. So we're really, I'm grateful for the team to put their bodies first and make sure we can get recovered in the right way, and also now get some rest in a very important way in terms of nutrition and sleep and everything like that. So again, we're going to assess the deck, what cards we can put out there, on Saturday, and everyone comes in tomorrow, refreshed, regenerated, and I thought we had good performances all over the field. You still have to go down to Trinidad. You still have to play against the opponent. You still have to score the goals you scored. And I think we did that, and you still have to keep the clean sheet. So, I'm proud of the guys' performance. It's never easy traveling and experiencing, the environments and what have you. We went over to train in the stadium. So yeah, it was all new experiences for a bunch of our young group.
Yeah, and as Cornell said there at the end, they weren't able to train in the stadium that they were going to be playing the game in. And so I do think that was part of the reason why, again, that they had Andre Blake on the bench, not knowing how the field conditions were going to be. You don't want to risk an injury to Blake so early in the season. But yeah, I think it's a sound response from Bradley Cornell, and I probably expected that, honestly, that yeah, regardless of the scoreline, you want to have a professional mindset. The game against DC United, it's not going to be like the game against Defense Force. It's 2 completely different opponents. What I do think is interesting is under Jim Curtin, we came to expect scorelines like this, big blowout wins of 4+ goals. Last year for the Union under Cornell in all competitions, only 2 games last year that the Union won by a score of 4 more goals. DC United, obviously away, the game where Quinn Sullivan unfortunately tears his ACL, and hopefully that there is no bad news this weekend to players. An injury like that would be terrible. And then Chicago Fire at home back in August, I believe that game was, where the Union won that game 4-0. But I think you go ahead and you look at, for the most part, players came away healthy. Again, we'll play a clip from Bradley Cornell giving the latest injury report. Yeah, Kevin Sullivan took a couple knocks on the game. I know, Jose, if you're still in the comment section, Jose was maybe arguing that maybe that's not the game that you put Kevin in, knowing that it's going to be a physical match, that there's going to be a lot of cagey challenges. Frankie Westfield was on the edge of a lot of those challenges, and Frankie played 82 minutes and then came out. Bradley Cornell had basically said that, yeah, his body just being beat up is considered day to day. And because the team got in so late and then they were back at the facilities at 5 a.m. this morning, Kevin, I think, actually posted a picture of him and his teammates inside the training room. And yeah, I mean, talk about dedication, being up that early after, I would imagine, arriving back late at night from Trinidad and Tobago, who were an hour ahead of us here on the East Coast. But yeah, I mean, Cornell happy with seeing the dedication from his team and just regenerating those bodies and hopefully having a semi practice before they head down to DC, which is difficult when you have multiple games a week. You can't really train as much as you want to, but like I said, I think for the most part, the team came away pretty healthy on the night. Jose said apparently a wild take from me by faceless Twitter accounts, saying that he's not sure that that's the game you put Kevin Sullivan in. Yeah, apparently, and I guess I mean, guess those faceless accounts with no wild takes, since they do say a lot of crazy things and never want to put their name behind their comments or their picture behind comments. They will remain anonymous. I thought another positive was you guys have talked about the minutes that Kevin played coming off the bench, making an impact. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a huge plus. I would say overall, players coming off the bench, whether it be a Damiani, a Siri Larson, a Finn Sundstrom, Vasilev, and just rotating, getting guys out before serious injuries, just keeping players fresh. I think that is so huge. And getting players minutes. Indiana Vasilev had missed the last two preseason games. Ben Sundstrom had missed the last two preseason games. Damiani had missed the last two. And so getting players out there to play an actual meaningful game that's not practicing in training sessions, which are hard and grueling, as Bradley Cornell had said. But yeah, nothing can come close to when an actual game is. So seeing those guys come off the bench and just work on their fitness, and seeing players exit the field and for the most part leave unscathed, it's a huge positive. That's maybe the main positive you take away from a 5-0 scoreline. I did love, I believe it was Kevin who got challenged, got fouled near center circle, and then you saw Indiana Vasilev, Jesus Bueno all run in and defend Kevin. And yeah, I mean, these guys, if there's any questions, or if there was any questions coming into this game, into the season, will they play for one another? What will the team chemistry be like with so much change? There's a clear example that these guys are still going to stick up for each other, that these guys have each other's backs and they don't care who's on the field. You know, if you're on the field, you're expected to contribute. And yeah, we saw Vasilev and Bruno run to the defense of Kevin Sullivan. So I would say those are probably my big key positives from a 5-0 scoreline. How you can take away positives, how you evaluate a game like that. I think, again, when you look overall, it's hard to take too much stock into the game because Union were the 12th ranked team according to Concacaf compared to 85th. And yeah, you look for moments where there was good build up play, where there was good actions, where there was good interchange. But at the same time, too, it is hard to assess this game overall because, yeah, I mean, this attack is good, at least on paper. It seems like the Union are going to score a ton of goals. But if I had a bet, and I don't bet, but I don't think we'll see a lot of games like this where the Union are just blowing teams out by 4 or more goals in MLS. I really don't. I think that they have a really good, solid attack, but there really is nothing on the field from Defense Force that really stood out to me. I mean, they were broken down so easily on the night, and we knew coming into this game that they were going to allow the Union to have a majority of the possession. But at the same time, when Defense Force had the ball, I mean, they never really troubled the Union. At least I don't feel like they troubled the Union at all. One thing I noticed too, nobody was complaining about the referee performance. I remember towards the end of the season, we used to get a lot of comments on the show, people complaining about the referee. Never really saw it last night. So, yeah, I guess the fans, you guys, the listeners, were happy with the referee performance. John says, "Gotta go to work, but have a good rest of the stream. See any of y'all in DC if you go to the game." Yeah, sure. Try to link up. Definitely go into the game, John. So thanks for tuning in before you head to work. Let's see. Wolfie says nothing but quality comments from Twitter users in regards to Jose. Yeah, absolutely. Jazz said Finn did not look out of place, and I thought so too. I saw a couple comments on social media that they thought Finn didn't look good, that he was out of position, he was playing catch up. But let's not forget he was injured. in preseason. Missed the last 2 games, and so his fitness levels weren't at the rest of his teammates. And so I think you want to see what he can do in moments like this where, yeah, it's a big moment. Yeah, you guys are up by a man now, but still, it's an international competition on foreign soil. He's never played in a game like that at that magnitude. And so I do think it was a good showing for Finn in limited amount of times. And I do think it's funny too when Jose and I talked about that deal being announced, being done. People were like, "Oh, he's going to be a Union 2 player for sure most of the season," and maybe it happens, but yeah, wouldn't you know it? He plays in the very first game of the season, and it just so happens to be Concacaf Champions Cup. Any other positives that I can take away from a lopsided game like this? Not really. So I guess we can go ahead and talk about Milan Iloski. No, we'll go ahead and actually talk about how important it was for Damiani and Alladoh to both get on the score sheet because I forgot I had that clip saved. And so, yeah, again, I guess that can be a positive, right? I mean, yeah, I know they help inflate the score line, Alladoh and Damiani, that is, but you want to see your strikers get going early because you hope that that leads to chemistry, that leads to common confidence throughout the rest of the season, especially early going, because you would love for Damiani and Alladoh to score multiple goals against DC United over the weekend. I don't know if it's going to happen, honestly, but I think they're going to be feeling a lot of confidence because they got the goals against Defense Force last night. But this is what Bradley Cornell had to say about how important it is to get the strikers going early on.
Yeah, I think it's massive. We knew Bruno was also away for some time, 10 to 12 days with his process of his green card. So, and then to integrate him and get him back is also another logistical, puzzle piece and getting him in there with the right minutes and what have you. So, and he came on and created a massive spark off the bench and just his work rate. And then, yeah, the quality of Frankie down the left-hand side, whether Frankie's on the left or the right, you saw it in preseason, supplying some excellent crosses. And to find Ezekiel was the cherry on the top because Ezekiel, new environment, new teammates, has to figure things out, and he wasn't able to get on the score sheet in preseason, but he worked really hard, and then in the big games and in the games that matters most, then he showed up. So I'm really happy for that, and hopefully he takes that energy and confidence into the next couple of games.
Yeah, and I think that you hope to see them continue to build the chemistry. You hope that this is the start of a successful partnership on paper. I do believe that Damiani and Alladoh will probably play the majority of minutes together on the field, but we saw it last year. Bradley Cornell's not afraid to switch up his strikers. He's not afraid to switch up the lineup. So maybe that is a hot take. Maybe I'll come to regret that comment, but when you pay $4.5 million for Alladoh, when you pay $3.4 million for Damiani, you don't expect to keep those guys on the bench that much. Whoopi says, I'm excited to see Bruno and Izzy up top together. I feel like it'll be a far superior team up than Ty and Bruno, 100%. You guys have heard me complain about on the show that it felt pointless seeing Damiani and Baribo out there at the same time because they made so many of the same runs. Similar players, and Ty always played better with Mikel. Bruno always played better with Mikel. It's what happens when you bring in a player that has a little bit different skill set than two strikers. And that's exactly what I think Ezekiel brings to the team. Brings speed. Yes, he's a super strong striker. Yes, he's good in the hold-up play, just like Damiani. But again, the speed's game changer. And there might not be anybody faster on this team than Ezekiel Alladoh this season. Jazz says, I'm excited to see Anello with either. He has no need to take their space. 100%. And I thought maybe we would see Anello this weekend against DC United, but Cornell had let us know that he is one of the players injured. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. SL Union says, good teams beat bad teams. There's multiple different versions of old Union teams that tie that game 0-0 or edge out a 1-0 victory. Yeah, for sure. The fans in this fan base that have been around since the beginning or the early days would echo that comment 100%. Wolfie says, I agree, was hoping Anello would get some time. But yeah, I think that this is potentially the start of something special between these two. And yeah, I know they didn't link up together. You didn't see them assisting each other, but yeah, there was moments where both of those guys were so good in the hold up play. And I think Jose had said that or said this on the show, or maybe he had said it on Twitter, but yeah, those two up top are going to draw a lot of fouls, and they'll probably create a lot of fouls too because of how strong they are. But let's go ahead and talk about Milan Iloski real quick. We haven't spent, or I haven't spent too much time talking about him yet, just because I wanted to give him his own little segment because I thought it was fantastic on the night, getting that free kick goal and then getting an assist for Makhanya's goal. Which, by the way, I think maybe there were some questions who was going to take set pieces for the Union with Kai Wagner gone. So happened to be Iloski, and not a bad way to introduce yourself with an assist on the corner kick with a free kick goal. I mean, he was channeling his inner Kai Wagner, and I'm sure Kai probably made him proud if he saw those goals, and I'm sure Kai would leave a cheeky comment and say, "You learned that from me." But yeah, it is good knowing that the Union have a compliment set piece taker in Iloski, and yeah, if Jack McGlynn was here and Kai wasn't, you would say, yeah, Jack McGlynn's going to be that player. And so, yeah, there doesn't seem to be any question at the moment who's going to be on set pieces. Seems like it is Iloski's call. We saw, I believe, Denley John Jock lined up at one point for that free kick, but there was no doubt, no question, in my opinion, who was taking that. It was Iloski all the way. And I do think if it's a better goalkeeper, he probably keeps that free kick out. But regardless, a goal is a goal, and Iloski is going to take it. But I mentioned at the beginning of the show, what I find so interesting is that Concacaf announces that, yeah, Iloski is the superior player of the match. Like, can we agree that these different organizations, these different competitions, they just leave it one name? Why do we have to learn 20 different names for an award that's essentially the player of the match? But I think we're in for a very special season of Iloski. We saw it at times last year: 4 goals, 5 assists, and 14 appearances for the Union after coming over from Nordsjælland in Denmark. Now the question is, where does Iloski spend most of his time? Is it as a number 10? Is it as a striker? And I'll be honest, I don't think it matters. If you're a goal scorer, it doesn't necessarily matter where you're going to line up on the field. It doesn't matter what your position says. Goal scorers find ways to score goals, and I think that's exactly what the Philadelphia Union have in Iloski. I'll pose a question to you guys because, yeah, I do want to quickly at the end go over my predictions and say where I think the Union will finish, different goal scorers, assist leaders, stuff like that. But do you guys believe that Iloski's in store to get double-digit goals and assists? Could you guys see a season where Iloski gets 10 goals, 10 assists? I think that would be fantastic. And specifically, yeah, I'll say in all competitions. And I think if it's all competitions that you guys are considering, then every single person listening to this podcast, I think everybody that's watching live would say, yeah, absolutely, he'll have double-digit goals and assists on the season. I thought it was funny, too, that the commentator last night was acting like Iloski's not a locked-in starter. I don't know where he was getting that information. Iloski's 100% a lock-in. Then I think at one point, too, it said that Iloski was on loan last year. Like, no. Iloski wasn't on loan. They bought him because San Diego couldn't make the deal permanent. And so he got his loan canceled, went back to Nordsjælland, and the Philadelphia Union bounced on that deal super quickly. And why not? Why not when you see a player scoring for fun out in San Diego? Can't lock that guy down to a long-term contract? Say less. And the Philadelphia Union made no mistake about it and just got off to a flying start last year for the Union. So there is no question, is he a locked-in starter? Absolutely. You're not going to leave a player that takes the number 10 jersey on the bench. Allowing a player to take the 10 tells you everything you need to know about how that player is viewed by his coaching staff, by his teammates. Is he not a locked-in starter? What a comment. MLS best 11? I don't know. I mean, I think he could put up that type of season. I think that Iloski could potentially become the face of this attack. Maybe the Union are trying to tell us something too with his face all plastered over the team's store. Yeah, I think maybe that's a sign of good things to come, but the Union couldn't have looked into a better deal, a better player than they did last season with Milan Iloski, a player that, I don't know, think he should be getting called up by Pochettino at one point or another? Potentially. Maybe. I don't know if he does. Getting close to the World Cup. I think there was multiple times where you could have caught him up in these friendlies, but regardless, hasn't been caught up yet. Don't know if he'll be caught up. SL Union says, who are DPs again? Is it just Bruno or is he high TAM? Yeah, last season, Iloski was listed as a TAM player. The Union haven't announced those roster designations. I don't believe they have to be in yet, but we'll hear those designations at one point or another. I'm curious, more so curious, will Alladoh be classified as a U22 or straight up DP? I would imagine probably a U22, but it all depends on how the Union want to go about structuring this roster. And you definitely have space to go for U22s if that is the path that you choose to go on. Makhanya is a U22. Quinn Sullivan's a U22. Felipe, this left back that they're linked with, which a commentator had asked way early in the show, I don't even know if they're still here, said, do we have any updates on Dinga? Last I heard that the deal was close to being done, pretty much done. Jose, I know, had said on social media that he had heard that there was one last hurdle to be jumped through. I'm not going to speak for Jose, and if Jose wants to comment on what he's heard since, feel free, Jose, in the comments. But I have no reason to doubt that deal won't get done. Next week, you would hope for an announcement, but again, I don't have any reason to panic that deal won't get done. But again, if Jose wants to comment in the comment chat to you guys on that, then go for it. SL Union also said, feel like Iloski would need DP money if he continues to play how he plays and needs a new contract, although I don't think that's for a while. Yeah, it isn't for a while since the Union just signed him last year. Jose Nunez says, Columbus just announced they had signed Andres Gomez, former Everton midfielder. Who else did he play for? I want to say Barcelona, but that doesn't sound right. Wasn't he in France? And he had that horrible injury too when he was with Everton, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's with Lille in France. Yeah, he was with Barcelona. I thought so. Went from Barcelona to Everton, and then it was a serious knee injury, if I'm not mistaken. Was it an ACL injury? I can't remember exactly what the injury was, but it kept him out for a while, and I wasn't sure that he would be able to come back from that injury. And what's interesting too, because it was a tackle from Son and Serge Aurier, and well, we'll see Gomez and Son square up this season. It was a ankle injury. I'm reading it here now. So yeah, I knew it was a serious injury, and I wasn't sure how he was going to bounce back. He's 32 years old, so I don't know. Does he have much left? Is this exactly a signing that's going to change MLS, change Columbus Crew? I don't know. I see your comment now, Jose. He free agent, Benfica, Valencia, Barcelona, Everton. Wolfie says the announcer also thought Todd was playing last night. Jazz says in regards to Milan, I feel like it's his team already. Wolfie says Iloski is the guy for the team this season. And yeah, you guys are definitely high on Milan Iloski, and so am I. So am I. I think Milan's going to be one of the key players for the Union this season. So as we get ready to wrap up the show, I'll be honest, guys, I didn't expect to be approaching an hour on the podcast by myself, but you guys know I love to talk. That's why I do a podcast. And then when Jose and I both join the podcast together, it always goes over an hour. So how exactly would you guys approach the second leg? The Union are up 5-0. They lose on aggregate. Do you guys rotate the squad? Do you guys play a similar lineup that you saw in the first leg against Defense Force? I think for me, I want to see a CJ Olney. I want to see a Finn Sundstrom. I want to see a Gainer Martinez. I want to see a Kevin Sullivan get a start. I want to see Jeremy Raffanello back at right back. Start a Salah Lever. Start a Eddie Davis with a Korzeniowski. Depending on how Anello is, yeah, you can start him in this game. I would imagine Indiana Vasilev starts one of these two next games, just to continue to build up his fitness. But there is absolutely no reason in my mind for the Union to go out there and start a strong lineup, because we know how these games can go. The emotions get the best of players when they're down by such a big scoreline, and you would hate to see anybody get seriously injured on the Union's side of things. So I think the smart thing to do is you start a strong lineup this weekend against DC United, and then you go ahead and play the kids, or you play Union too. Are we able to add Malik to the roster? I think we can. Play Malik Jakupovic for 20 minutes. Why not? A lot of those faceless Twitter accounts would absolutely love it. Maybe that's all they want to see. Just throw Union 2 out there in a game that the Union are up 5-0. They can hold their own. So, yeah, I mean, no need to put the starters out there. Got a lot of games coming up, and you want to keep these guys healthy. Yeah, you want to continue to build their fitness, but let's face it, unless the Union absolutely blow up, they'll be playing Club America in the next round in the Concacaf Champions Cup, with the first game being at Subaru Park. And so with you playing 2 games a week, yeah, you got to keep the squad healthy. You got to keep them fresh. And so absolutely start the young guys. Let's go ahead and see what you guys are seeing. Wolfie says Ben Bender in goal. And that's a shout too. 100%. Ben Bender should play in that game. Glesnes 67 minutes. I don't know what that means. Did he score? Did he get hurt? I don't know. I have no clue what you're talking about, Jose. Sexy Hoagie says momentum for Saturday. Absolutely momentum on Saturday. It's why you go with Damiani and Alladoh up top, in my opinion. Jarrett says start George Marks first defense force. Yeah, and that was discussed too on Across the Pitch with Mike Barrera, Ben Becker, Jose, and myself last night. Do you start George Marks? I'd imagine he doesn't get a ton of game time this season. You want to get him a game time in a big competition like this? I don't think he's ever played in Concacaf Champions Cup. Why not? Wolfie goes out of here and says, Makhanya as striker. Jose then chimes in and says, start Sexy Hoagie. Caught myself. Sexy Hoagie says that's a wild take. Jarrett says Malik would become the youngest goal scorer ever. I mean, Malik was a goal scoring machine last year for Union too. It's not the wildest thing in the world to think that if Malik started this game or came off the bench in this game, would he score a goal? Yeah, it's a highly thought of prospect. So yeah, you start the younger kids, absolutely. Which, let's go ahead and quickly talk about DC United. I don't have a lot to discuss about this game. It's a 7:30 kickoff on Audi Field, as we all know, Apple TV. To watch this game, this is a completely changed DC United team. Yeah, we know Ty Burrito is going to be the biggest storyline, which I would imagine is what MLS has you paying attention to, Jose? Paying attention if Burrito scores against his former club? Because MLS would absolutely love that storyline. They brought in Luis Montanu from Europe, 23-year-old Romanian striker. I believe the fee was around $7 million, and you spend between $11 to $12 million on 2 forwards. It's a significant amount of money invested in two attackers, but you look at some other players brought in, a Sean Johnson, a free agent. I thought that was a really big pickup for DC United. Nikola Markovic, the number 1 overall draft pick out of North Carolina. He came from NC State, I believe, right? Where's Mark Kelkenberg when you need him in the comment section, or anybody else that pays attention to college soccer? I believe that Nicolo was at NC State, but correct me if I'm wrong. You also have Richie Amon, who came from Washington, thrown in the side for the University of Maryland. So they have some players that they brought in, whether they drafted, whether they signed as free agents, or whether they went out and made trades, or whether they paid a transfer fee for. Definitely a revamped DC United squad, and I wouldn't expect a high-scoring game, if I'm being honest. I know the Union just put up 5 goals, but it's the first game of the regular season. You don't expect DC United to play at the level that Defense Force played at, and I know last year they certainly did, but it's essentially a brand new team, and I think DC's going to want to turn the page on what had been the last couple seasons. I don't know what the crowd's going to look like first game of the season, and I would imagine it's probably going to be close to a sellout. And we know as the season goes on and DC United continue to fall off, that stadium stays pretty empty. But I think because there's going to be so many there at the stadium, DC United fans, I think that it's going to be a terrific atmosphere that may help push the players on. I can see this game ending 1-1. I would go with Andre Blake in goal, Siri Larson, Makhanya as your 2 center backs, Frankie and Nathan as your 2 fullbacks. Doesn't matter who plays on what side. Jesus Bueno and Stanley John Jock. I don't know if you want to risk a rib injury that Jovan Lukic is dealing with. I think Bueno played decent, especially defensively. I know there was a comment on my Substack that they had said they didn't think Bueno played good on the night, but yeah, I mean, you want a solid defensive performance, and that's exactly what you got from Bueno on the night. I think this game's going to be won or lost in the midfield between these two teams. As your 2 10s, I would go with Iloski and Vasilev, and then go up top with Alladoh and then Damiani. But Kevin played so well. I mean, could you see a realistic world where Kevin Sullivan maybe gets a start as a number 10? I think he definitely deserves that conversation to be had with how well he played last night. But yeah, you guys listening back on the RSS feed, you guys listening live, what would you guys do for a lineup? Jarrett says, if Berube scores, do you think he celebrates? Yes, I do think he celebrates. Wolfie says, it's hard to get worried about DC United, but I think they will be a bit better this season. Yeah, I agree. And it's very possible, too, that DC United continues to be DC United, but this is a low-scoring game. So, like I said, I mean, it's a home opener. A lot of money spent this offseason, DC United, and it's enough to get fans excited. I know it's been horrible times, but essentially a new coaching staff, a new front office, a new attack. I think that's enough to get people to come out for the home opener. And because of that, I think it will probably be a draw, but I wouldn't be shocked if DC came in here and won, if I'm being honest, right? And if DC United did win, or if the Union drew against United, I don't think there's any need to overreact, but we know how some people are in this fan base. They absolutely would overreact. Jazz says Indy didn't get a lot of time last night. Might question his readiness. And that's true. And I think because he had missed the last 2 preseason games, you're building back his fitness. But I don't know. I mean, it is Coach Cornell's guy, so I fully expect Vasilev to get the start against DC United on Saturday night. Wolfie says Indy was on the field for like 10 seconds and got hurt last night. I didn't even notice Indy got hurt. Would love to know what minute that was, and I'll go back and watch that because Coach Carnell did not mention any injury to Vasilev, which I guess is a good way to go ahead and play the last clip on the night. Bradley Carnell talking about, again, continued injuries for this Union squad.
Yeah, Frankie got whacked around a little bit, on that field, and yeah, listen, we were active down that side with Frankie as well, and I'm glad he got the assist as well for Ezekiel. So he got a bit banged up, but I think it should be good. We did regen this morning, very early, and then yeah, we're going to get the guys in tomorrow and see who's available and assess it from there. But we're hopeful he'll be good. Jovan struggling with a rib contusion, and we're just still waiting for the extent of that. Yeah, so he's pretty uncomfortable still. Augustine Anello, there's mild muscular things going on, as well as Ben Bender and Eddie Davis. So, there's a couple of guys, but I feel that they're pretty much all day to day, and we're just trying to get some sort of gauge where they all currently are, but we don't have the time to really throw them in much. So hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to assess it a little bit better.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing, right? With playing multiple games a week, you don't have too much time to train, and so that's why getting these guys in early for preseason, getting your business done as early as possible in the preseason, knowing that you're not going to have too many times or opportunities during the week to train and build that chemistry because you're playing multiple times a week. So hopefully Frankie Westfield's good to go this weekend. He's a strong guy, strong player, pushes through it. Jovan still dealing with that rib injury. Is it worth risking? I don't know. Anello having muscle injuries is concerning. I don't know if you really risk that. Ben Bender, I know, would love to play against his other Marylander on the opposite side, Jacob Merle. Changed jerseys last year when these two played. But yeah, I don't know. I give you guys my lineup, and basically day to day, Bradley Cornell said, and we'll see tomorrow come 5-6 o'clock once teams have to submit their injury report. And I'm sure all those guys that Bradley Cornell had just listed, I'm guaranteeing you they'll probably be listed as day to or questionable. Can't say day to day. I'm sure they'll be listed as questionable. Playing the mind games with DC United, not knowing who to prepare for, who to potentially scout when you're doing your scout. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Sexy Hoagie says Butterworth's at 6:30, Audi Field at 7:30. So I'm assuming Sexy Hoagie is going down to the field and she wants to meet all you lovely Union fans if you're going down to Audi Field Saturday night, which is supposed to be great weather, by the way. So I don't know. If you guys aren't taking I think the Sons of Ben are taking a bus. If you guys are driving yourself down, maybe you're taking the metro down. Maybe you arrive a little bit earlier. Maybe hang around DC, walk around DC, go see a museum, go to the zoo, walk around the tidal basin. I don't know. Lots to do in DC. See what happens. But before we end the show, Kyle Omni had talked about the predictions he had for the Philadelphia Union, and I thought they were some crazy predictions, and it's always fun reviewing your predictions at the end of the season and seeing what you're right about, what you're wrong about. And last night I was on the Battered MLS Fans podcast, and they were the first show that I did my predictions for. They had asked me to give my predictions, and so if you guys didn't catch that episode, then good. This is going to be the first time you guys are hearing me give my predictions for the 2026 Philadelphia Union season. I debated whether or not I wanted to go ahead and write my predictions, just like so many other people in the media had gone on record about. But I'll leave it here on the podcast, and hopefully I don't forget what my predictions were when we go ahead and review this type of stuff at the end of the season. But I think realistically for the Union, super happy with the deals that they've got done. Happy that they continue to spend money. I am happy to see them get younger. And again, I understand why some fans may be concerned, why they believe the Union are going to fall short and not have as successful of a season last year because it's so much change, such a young team. But that's exactly why it excites me. They're a young team. They're a hungry team. And I keep going back to what Bradley Cornell said last year, time and time again. Be the hunters, not the hunted. And this team absolutely believes, trust Bradley Cornell. They're completely brought into his style of play and his system. And that can do wonders for teams. But I do realize, too, they're still into Miami. FC Cincinnati's a good team. Don't know what Columbus will be. Nashville, I think, will continue to be better this season. Not sure I really buy Atlanta United with the return of Tata Martina. But yeah, I think the Union will probably finish fourth in the Eastern Conference. I'd be shocked if they go out and win the Supporters Shield, and I don't want them to win the Supporters Shield because we know how much of a curse it is winning that terrible, terrible shield. Teams don't win MLS Cup winning that. You guys know the stats better than me. It doesn't happen a lot in MLS. Certainly didn't happen last year with the Philadelphia Union. But I can see them going fourth and finishing in the Eastern Conference final. The playoffs are such a crapshoot. Anything can happen. I had said on the battered MLS fan show last year, I said that it'll probably be Inter Miami that the Union faced in the Eastern Conference finals. But, I mean, it could be anybody. What, 2 years ago you had New York Red Bulls going to the final, and then, look, they missed the playoffs last year. Anything can happen in the playoffs. But I think this team is good enough to go to the Eastern Conference final. I do think that they're good enough to finish in the top four, and maybe they finish higher than fourth. But because they are in so many competitions, I think that will have an effect on the team. If I had to predict points, mm, 55, 56 points, I would imagine. I think the Union get past Club America. I don't think this is that great of a Club America team compared to what the Union saw in 2021. I do think that they will fall short to Inter Miami in the next round. I do think Inter Miami will beat BJ Callahan and Nashville. They just seem to have the number. And just like the Union had New England's a couple years ago, which eventually ended their playoff run after winning the Supporters Shield. But I don't know. Maybe Nashville surprises some people. But I do think that the competition that the Union win this season, I think they win Leagues Cup. I really do. I think the Union do come away with silverware once again. I do think that it won't be the Supporters Shield. It's not going to be Concacaf Champions Cup. I really do, guys. I really do think it's going to be Leagues Cup this season. And would you guys be happy with that? The Union finishing in the Eastern Conference final, losing, but they come away with another trophy, back-to-back years of a trophy. Would you guys take that? Will that be a successful season for the Union? I know Alejandro Bedoya really, really wants MLS Cup, and he's going to be leading the charge, helping these guys get to MLS Cup, hoping that they can lift MLS Cup this season, but I don't know if they have it. Top three goal scorers. I'm going with Bruno Damiani. I think he scored 17 goals this season in MLS. I think Damiani is going to have a terrific season for the Union up front. I think Iloski is probably going to follow behind with 13 goals himself. I think Iloski is going to have a terrific season. And then I can see Ezekiel Alladoh finishing with 11 or 12 goals this year in MLS. Top assisters, I'll go with Iloski number one. I don't know. It's so hard for me to predict where he'll finish. 7 assists, maybe. Frankie Westfield, I would say, is probably number 2. I could see him finishing with 6 or 7 assists this year. And then who would I say number 3? Man, Indiana Vassilev. I could see Vassilev finishing with 5 or 6 assists. You're going to need Vassilev to be more creative than what he was last year, especially with Quinn Sullivan, I would imagine, out until June at the earliest. But I don't know. Maybe Quinn comes back and has a monster second half of the season. Maybe Kevin Sullivan just continues to play well and finishes with the most assists on the team. I don't know. But that's kind of my predictions right there on that. I do think it's going to be an enjoyable Philadelphia Union season in 2026. I do think there's silverware. I do think that this team's going to surprise the national media. I do think they're going to surprise other MLS teams, other MLS fans. I do think that the Union are going to surprise some people in this fan base. I don't think Bradley Cornell is going to have a season 2 like he had in St. Louis City. Again, we talked about it last year when he was introduced as the Philadelphia Union's new head coach. Much better team than the one he had in St. Louis. The Union go out and invest even more this offseason, break their highest transfer fee paid back-to-back seasons. And because of that type of investment, there's just no way I see Cornell have the type of season that he had in his second year with St. Louis City. So we'd love to know what you guys think in the RSS feed. I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section. I'll pull it up here one more time. Jazz says, as long as Miami and Nashville exist, they play for mid-table in the East. Wolfie says, I love Leagues Cup. Jazz says, Leagues Cup, the best bet, but they need to get a great draw. Yeah, that is true. Wolfie says, Kevin, I would imagine in terms of assists. Anello will get 5 or 6 assists for sure. Absolutely. Anello probably is the better shout than Indiana Vassila. Good call, Jarrett. Anello top 3 in assists is what Jazz is saying as well. So again, I see your guys' comments on social media. I see your guys' comments on the YouTube videos afterwards. I try to reply to all comments. I see your comments on Spotify. So if you guys have predictions for this 2026 season, would love to see them and keep track of them. And we can go ahead and review this stuff at the end of the season. I do have a great blunder of the week that, unless something wild happens over the weekend, should be an enjoyable blunder of the week for you guys. And I have to make sure that I play some of that blunder of the week for you guys over the weekend, unless it gets changed. And I know we've picked up a lot of new listeners over the off season. And so blunder of the week for people who are just tuning into the podcast is essentially a blunder, a mishap that's soccer related. It can be your kid's soccer game. It could be your own soccer game. It can be something you watch on TV. It doesn't have to be Philadelphia Union MLS related. If you guys want to nominate a blunder, you can go ahead and nominate them on social media. And we'll definitely let you guys know what blunder of the week is this Sunday. So super excited now that the season's back to start doing blunder of the week weekly, because I know you guys love that segment so much. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast of The Free Kick. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod, live every single podcast. A lot of people commenting tonight. I told you guys, solo show, so I'm going to need your help in the comments. You guys did not disappoint. Thank you guys, as always. And don't forget, we're back. First MLS game of this weekend against DC United, which means the return of the goals breakdown videos. Hopefully we have a lot of goals to break down this weekend. Hopefully for the Union. It's always fun breaking down those goals. Get a lot more views when the Union are scoring goals. So going to need the Union to score plenty of goals this Saturday and throughout this season so we can break down those goals. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the podcast, the goals breakdown video, or my writing all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. But yeah, I'm super excited, guys, for this weekend. Hope to see some of you guys down in DC. If you are going, like, seriously, hit me up on social media. Email me at freekickpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, sure, we can try to link up. And yeah, throughout the regular season too, if you guys are going to the stadium, want to link up, say hi. Would love to meet you guys. Met plenty of you guys last year. And so we'd love to chat before a game this season. And I say it all the time, you guys are the best part of the show. So many of you guys are subscribing to the Substack. So many of you guys are reading the articles, sharing the articles, interacting with me on social media. The engagement's been up the last 2 weeks. So really, really grateful. My one small ask for you guys is if you guys could just continue to review the podcast, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, whatever you guys feel comfortable giving the podcast a rating as, do it. 5 stars, obviously, are the best, and it goes a long way. The more higher ratings we get on those platforms, the more those platforms advertise, push the podcast to the top when people are searching MLS-specific podcasts. soccer podcast. And so we want to continue to have this thing grow, and we can't do it without you guys. So the content may be good, but it's a team effort. And so if you guys haven't done that yet, one of these platforms, can you guys please give ratings? Could you guys please like the YouTube videos, comment, even just great show, thumbs up. It goes a long way, reaching more and more people. But we'll be back Sunday for another live podcast. Hopefully Jose's back. If not, we'll be back with another live solo show, and you guys will be helping lead the way in the comment sections as always. So with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.